Hi and welcome to this tutorial to build your painting skills. In this session, you will be introduced to applying glazes and painting reflective surfaces. This painting should take about 45 minutes to complete. We will work about 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters square. Watch this quick method to create a square on your paper. Take a corner and extend it to the side without creasing it. For simplicity's sake, I will mark it at 20 centimeters. We will center the chest pawn, so I will mark out the 10 centimeter mark. Here is an image of the finished drawing. Feel free to pause here to draw it out, or continue watching if you need assistance. If you pause, use the chapter markers in the description of the video to jump to the next section. The pawn is symmetrical, so it will be the same on both sides. I then mark out the bottom and the top of how big I want the pawn to be. I then mark out this section for the top circular area. Next I will mark how wide the bottom will be. I'll measure it so it's accurate. I then measure out the neck area and extend the lines down. For ease, I'll then mark out the diagonals. If you have a hard time drawing circles, start off drawing a square. Curve the top area of the pawn and gradually taper it off. I then add some of the lip areas under the circular area. I'll then taper off the bottom area and curve the base. I'll finally erase all the guidelines. I'll then do a quick check to see if any adjustments are needed. Lastly, I will gently erase over the line work to make sure the pencil lines do not show through the paint. Here are three types of brushes. The first one here is called a filbert. It has a curved edge. The next is called a flat. It's good for filling in large areas. The last one I have here is called a round brush. I tend to usually always use a flat brush, but I'll try and mix it up during this video. On our palette, we will need black, white, and ochre. Note, we do not need large amounts as the painting is small. I also have a cup of water to rinse my brush and a rag to wipe my brush if needed. First, we'll paint the entire pawn a solid black. For curved areas, I recommend rotating your paper so you're always painting towards yourself. My video setup will not allow me to do this. Remember, you can also rotate your brush to create thinner lines. Fill in the entire pawn and see if you need to apply a second coat. Let it dry, but this doesn't take too long. We are now going to create a glaze. A glaze is simply a diluted color. I place some drops of water on my palette and mix a bit of ochre with white. You may need to experiment a little with this part, just don't make the glaze too watery. Feel free to make some tests on the empty area of your page. Once satisfied, paint the entire background area. It does not have to be done neatly, as we will paint over it again later. Paint over the chest pawn as well. Note how the glaze has changed the black. So imagine the light source is coming from the left. We will take the black again and apply it to create a shadow area on the pawn. Paint as I do. Feel free to pause the video if required. We will now create a black glaze to create the casted shadow. Get some water as previously demonstrated and add small amounts of black. Once ready, paint out the casted shadow as I do. I should mention that I rinse my brush in a cup of water whenever I am switching colors. I am going to take some of the beige glaze from before and paint over the casted shadow to lighten it. Next, we'll add reflective highlights. This will make our pawn appear shiny. I'll take some white with a touch of ochre. Paint the highlights in the areas that I do. I then go over some of the highlights with pure white. Now we will move on to the background. Use white with a touch of ochre to make a cream color. Paint the entire background, taking care around the edges of the pawn. Paint it about 2/3 down the frame. We'll then need to create a slightly darker beige tone for the lower third. Once you get to the casted shadow, dilute the paint with some water to glaze over the shadow as we did before. I hope this has helped you develop some techniques such as glazing for an artwork. Be sure to check out some of the other videos to continue building your skills. Painting takes time and practice. Don't give up. Lastly, just a shout out to Mark Daniel Nelson, as this activity was adapted from his book.